Thank you for staying with us. You are watching Testify here on the station where you look and live. You're hanging out with me, Maria Macau, and today we also have Reverend David Njeru talking to us about his life and just where he got to the point where he got this title, Reverend. We're still talking to David now, waiting to move to the Reverend. And you telling us you've cleared Form 4. You still don't have a direction of exactly what you want to do, like so many of us who don't really know what we want to do after high school. So you moved to manual jobs. How did that go for you?
Yeah, basically even the manual jobs did not even come my way. I had to tarmac and struggle like anybody else. I would go to industrial area early in the morning and try to knock at those steel gates, and nobody would open, and most of the time we were chased away. And that time I was living in the slums of Marigoyin in South Bay. And I could ask myself, what is it? Where God? What? Of course, I did not know exactly God as a personal savior, but I was so religious. I could go to church, but I was asking God, where are you? Is this what I was meant to be in life? Because I would remember that industrial area would carry some bags of beans in a coffee processing factory down there. And I could also just walk around, and there's no lunch, and we were chased around, we are insulted, and it's like life is not worth living. I even one time questioned God, although I never had that personal relationship with him that time. I asked him, is this all it is in life? And because it's a fellow human being here, a fellow African, and he's just telling me, you guys, you have to keep on running throughout the day, carrying these bags. And at the end of the day, if you are late for 2 minutes, you are chased out of the place. And it was difficult. We could just go out and look for this place, these many jobs. It was not as paying as that. That time it was paining, and my mind would go round and round. I could even ask myself. There's some of my classmates who were already in university at that time, and one time I met one of them, and I was coming from that Kibarua, and he was driving this top of the Range Rover. It was like black in color. It was like, just stopped me.
Yeah.
He just came closer, and he asked me, David, are you all right? And I said, well, I am. Then it was kind of a dream. But when I looked at this man, I realized he's a guy who was number one from the last in our class. I was beating him in academics, in athletics, in everything else. And then here he is. He's driving a black Range Rover. It was like, see you, bye. Then he drove off. Then that started to make me think. Life may not be served in a silver platter.
Yes.
But you can be able to make it the way you want.
Yes.
So after he left, I realized that his father actually has pushed him just to do accounts. And I was wondering what kind of accounts was this? Because he could, even in class, even in mathematics, was not even attending mathematics classes. And I said, well and good. Then after doing a lot of manual jobs, then I started also trying to do something, some training in hotel industry, whereby I did some catering training, and I did something in food and beverage, and I got a small job. And my first job, when I can say a job, I was paid 800 shillings. You can imagine that is my lunch, that is my supper, that's my breakfast, that is my rent, that is what I can even buy my own clothes. And at one time, I felt fulfilled. I felt that at least there is a direction that my life is taken through. Because now I made a decision to go back to class. And when I went to class, it is a Mr. Maura, who was a senior chef in one of the big hotels around here, who pushed me into this. And he actually brought this, when he brought the certificate to me, then he told me, this is wonderful. You have done something well. And he actually got me another job. After that job, I got another job in town here. And when he got me that job, I was actually the best salesperson for many years running. And I knew I can be able to challenge the world, regardless of my background. At that time, I could see now there's a form, there's a shape, shaping in my life. And I continued like that. I went from place to place. And until one time, I rose actually to a supervisor. And a supervisor in a hotel industry is one of the senior leaders or senior managers, because management starts from low and as we go up. And I remember one of the restaurants in town here, without mentioning the name. We were two supervisors. One, I was in the upper chamber, the other was in the lower chamber. My colleague just came with the MD, and then he pointed straight at me, and then he said, I have told him to wipe the tables, and he has refused. And it was like a knife cutting through my heart, because that was a lie. And then the MD said, step down, get out of my establishment, and I'm giving you a few seconds. Do you hear that? Even before I could say, excuse me, he told me, I don't want to hear anything. And I left that place. And after that, I have never been employed again. And that is the time now when I was in the restaurant, I would actually, go smoking, drinking, just because the food was provided in the hotel. The drinks were provided. I could eat anything I want. I could just sign the captain order, and then the boss would pay. And in the evening at about 11, there was a BMW which was waiting for me. I would sit at the back left to be taken home. And there was a designated driver who made sure that I've gone home. But most of the time, instead of going home, I would actually go to a pub and drink. And remember, one of the pubs, without mentioning the name, they even knew me. When I could just saunter into the door, they say, that stool belongs to so and so. Don't dare touch that. And even without money, they could just really give me my favorite drink and a pack of cigarettes. Then they would, without even knowing if I have money or not. And I would enjoy myself. And the kind of enjoyment was not really enjoyment, but it was actually trying to ask myself, which direction do I go in life? It was a lifestyle I had seen many people do, and I also took it. And I remember also there was a friend of mine who used to drive a pickup, Datsun. He would come and park outside the hotel at about 10, and he would ask for a drink. And after we have closed, he would say, David, come, let's go together. And he would buy me drinks and everything that I need. And one time I remember I was actually in the restaurant, and I was supposed to close and open, but this time I forgot to check the taps, and all the taps were open. And in the morning, you know what happened? The whole place was flooded. Top floor and the ground floor was flooded. That time I was drunk. I did not even know what was happening with me. They came to my house because some people knew my house. They knocked. I could not open. So when I sobered up at about 9, I staggered to the establishment, and I found the place open. And I found the gentleman there, the owner. He told me, your days are numbered. And those are some of the escapades that I used to have.
Yeah, and maybe just sticking around the life that you were living, drinking, smoking. Maybe how were you able to come out of it? How was that? How long was that, and how are you able to overcome that?
Well, I was drinking and smoking for roughly 5 years. I wasn't really a heavy drinker because every time I knew my limits and I knew my brand. If you don't have my brand, you ask me to suggest to have something else, I would say kindly no, thank you. I would go to the next establishment. And I was also very careful because I was taking myself as a gentleman, and I would do everything that a drunkard would do. Well, those days I would walk with every kind of a skirt wearer, either long or short, without any consequences. And thank God, because it delivered me from those kind of areas, because those are the days of AIDS, the days of STDs, and miraculously I never got any of them. And until I was like, Jesus, of course I never knew Jesus as my personal savior at that time. But later on, when I was reflecting my life, when I was kind of going back, I would actually know that God had preserved me for such a time like this, to be an answer to my generation. And drinking, I would drink in the morning, lunchtime, in the evening. And
like we're supposed to pray.
Well, kind of. And it's just something inside of me told me, you are not living right. Well, a lot of people are looking at you, and they need to be guided by you. So there was a voice which kept on speaking to me. I remember one of my friends is called Stephen. He was born again that time. He was married like me. He's also married like me. And he told me, you look like a preacher. And that time I was still drinking. And he told me, one time you'll come and testify of the goodness of the Lord. And I told him, well, I know Jesus. And they would come with the Bible. And because of my religious background, I would go to church, or even during those days, and I knew a lot of scriptures. So they would sit me down, and I would actually argue with them. And because I knew scriptures like nobody's business, but of course there was no revelation about that. I could not apply them in my own life. I only knew them. And one time I just decided, today I want to quit smoking. So I started, I smoke 1, 2, and 3, and 4 maybe in a day. And then I would say I'll smoke 2. So I reduced gradually. And even that time I was very arrogant. If you ask me for a cigar, I would give you what I am smoking and light another one. And not that I had a lot of money. Those are the small little coins that I was getting from the hotel industry. And if you ask for a matchbox, I give you what I have, and I go and buy another one. Because I felt that I need to command my space. Who are you to invade my privacy? Who are you to just come and ask anything from me? And with that, I stopped smoking. And I remember that time, one of my eyes was actually aching so much. And I think it is because of the smoke. And if I have not smoked, it's like, that's so bad. But God actually healed me miraculously out of that eye. It was actually the right eye. It was aching all through. And I stopped smoking. And then gradually also, I stopped drinking. And then that's when I sobered up. I knew that my life is better than what I have right now. I can do better. I can do better than what I am doing right now. I remember one of my friends, actually 2 of my friends, without mentioning their names, we were used to work with them in town center here. I remember one of them introduced me to one of the clubs, which was along Halithalesi Avenue, and we could go there at night after work. And my name was also changed from David to DJ, because I also wanted to learn how to DJ. And the real DJ would shout my name, DJ, and when he says that, I would say, yeah, here I am. It was live. And I just sobered up. One of the guys who introduced me there, he died, and he was actually buried. Then there's a friend of mine, without mentioning his name again. One time I met him in town. He was very drunk. And I met one of my colleagues whom we used to work together with. Then he told me, do you know so and so has died again? So I could actually count 3 of my colleagues. We used to drink with them together. We used to go with them out together. And they are buried right now. And actually they died without hope, because I am sure they never received Jesus as their personal savior. But I'm here today to say that at least your story can change.
Yes, indeed. And when did you meet Christ? Like, you're talking about gradually quitting smoking, gradually reducing your drinking and stopping ultimately. When did you now begin a relationship, forget about the religion, with Christ now?
In 1996, sometime in July, my sister used to have a vehicle, a pickup vehicle. And she had actually invited a prophetess, so to speak, to just come and bless her work and just pray with her. I'm not sure where she got her from, but I was there, as innocent as I was. And this prophetess, opened the engine of the vehicle, and she was just praying. And then one time she just mentioned and said, you smell that strange smell from this engine? That is what is eating your vehicle and your finances. Then it was like as a sudden grasp of light illuminated my mind. It's like, I can't actually smell what you are saying. Of course I wouldn't say that. And she continued to say, well, let's go up and pray. So we went up the stairs, and she continues to pray. And at one time she said, for this problem to go away, you have to give this amount of money. And I was on one side, and I actually winked unto my sister, told her, no, don't give. That time when we were going up the stairs, my heart was beating. And it was like my mind was also going round and round because of this encounter. But at that time, the Lord actually, later on I discovered it was the Lord, was actually talking to me and telling me, I am calling you to teach people my word and deliver them from deception. So, and my first miracle was actually when we went to the house, a few minutes after she prayed from the vehicle. And then this time she was telling my sister, give this kind of money. And then I am here telling her, no, this is not the right preacher. It's not a prophetess. She's false. And my sister got it and said, well, we can only give this. She gave a portion of what actually the prophetess was asking. Then she got very angry. Then she said, no, you can't give this. You cannot call me from all that distance and come here and then you refuse to give me my money. I know I can just pray a bad prayer. Then I said from my heart, you can't do that. I am standing here. You can't. Although I was not doing it verbally, but I knew that time I had already started my ministry. And after that we sat down. She was given a cup of tea. She refused. She said, no, I can't eat anything from this house. Give me my money. I want to get out of this place. So she was given some little money and she literally disappeared out of the house. She was escorted up to the stage, took a matatu, and she went. When we went back, I never shared with my sister what was happening in my heart. But I also told my sister, I need to go. So I went. I picked my matatu. And when I was in the matatu, I realized I was actually sweating. And it's like, even the person who was sitting next to me, it was like, are you okay? Although they never spoke to me. So I reached down, and when I stepped down, I realized that it is like I was stepping on air. Kind of something strange. So I went home and just sat and relaxed a little bit, and then I started asking God, what was it? What was this? I did not know that I was conversing with God that time. So that time I slept. And then, because I knew there was repentance, there was salvation, I asked God, forgive my sins. If this is you who called me from that particular incident, prove yourself in my life. I didn't lay a fleece like Gideon, but I said, prove yourself. And actually God is very gracious. He proved himself. The following day, somebody whom I knew came and knocked at my door. He actually told me, I have been looking for you. Come and have breakfast in my place. So we went and had a breakfast in his house. And after breakfast, he told me, I have been praying for you to get saved. Well, I could not tell him that I'm now born again, but I told him, the Lord is working with my heart and I can come to testify. And within 1 week, I was testifying. I went to a church. I was welcomed. And I was discipled. And I thank God because there was a turning point to me. I had a voice. Nobody preached to me, but the voice of God spoke to me and gave me a mandate, a clear mandate in life. That is why I'm here today to say and also tell you that the Lord can transform you, can change you. When you are there and you are asking the Lord, here I am, change my life. And that was a turning place for me, a turning point.
Wow, that's really, really powerful. Thank you so much. You are still here with us. We are on the program called Testify. We'll be coming back to just know exactly what does Reverend David do currently, what is his mandate, where is he stationed, and just know more about his family as well. Do stay with us.